Okay, hi there everyone. My name's Tom Culverhouse. I work for Sonodyne in the UK, a manufacturer of marine instrumentation. And today I'm going to talk about our Project Bedlam we did last year as part of AQUAEXCEL with Syntef Ocean. So what we were trying to do in this project was to attack a few different sort of problems that we perceived in offshore aquaculture, particularly regarding fish farming, Atlantic salmon in this case. And we've heard a lot of talks this week about the need to move this sort of farming further and further offshore, and that was one of the key things we had in mind as part of this project. So we wanted to reduce offshore human presence. Obviously, that's very costly. You can see a lot of it going on in this picture, and it's going to get more and more costly as the further and further offshore you go. We want to increase efficiency in terms of the way that when fish are harvested, or they are being harvested at the right time, can we track their growth correctly? And we wanted to monitor the amount of reduced waste as well. And the way we're going to attack this is by trying to reduce costs via technology, to automate monitoring, to look at fish growth, nutrient flows, and waste products in a real sort of commercial environment, and also provide live in situ updates. So rather than having to wait until the instruments come out of the water to see what they say, you get the data on your desktop the moment that it's gathered. So this is how we went about our business. It centers around our Origin 600 ADCP. This is, for those who aren't familiar, an ADCP has 5 beams in this case. It's an active acoustic device. It sends out sound waves into the water, receives sound waves back, and you can use this information to measure things like currents and waves, which again we've heard a lot about this week as potential sources of damage to infrastructure. And in this case, we also operated the ADCP as an echo sounder, and the strength of the signal that comes back tells you how strong the scattering is. So in this case, we pointed the ADCP partially into a fish pen, and so we can monitor the behavior of the fish when they're inside the pen, and we can also measure currents and waves from the beams that are outside the pen. We can also get the data, there's a huge amount of volume of data, and we'll see that in a minute. We can process that data on the device itself using algorithms that we can develop, and that boils the data down from masses and masses of data, megabytes and megabytes, gigabytes of data, down to that tiny little piece of information that actually makes a difference to the site operator to tell them about the health of their fish farm. And because the data is then small, we can get it through our integrated acoustic telemetry to the surface, and then we use Syntef's infrastructure to get the data at the surface to a cloud account where it could be accessed from a desktop. So here's a picture on the left-hand side of the equipment as we're deploying it at the Syntef fish farm off the island of Hitra. So here's what some of the data looks like. We deployed for a month. And what you can see here is this is where the acoustic beam enters the pen, the fish net at the bottom. All this stuff in the middle is the fish doing their thing, and at the surface you've got waves and things like that. So it's really the section in the middle of the pen that we're interested in. So we were able to monitor continuously for a month with this payload. If you zoom into about 2 minutes of that data, you see this kind of thing. So you can see all this sort of small timescale fluctuation and variability in fish behavior. And we can even resolve individual members of the species, so we can possibly track size growth that way. As I said before, we can process the data on the device itself to boil large data down into small, simple data. And this is some of the data that was produced in the cloud account. So in this case, you can see we're reporting the current speed at the site, so you can have an idea about weather conditions and make a decision about whether to send humans out there or whether your infrastructure is at risk. This is all fully automated, so we left it down there for a month sitting there reporting data before the equipment was brought out of the water. In terms of where we are in terms of TRL, we're at about TRL 7 or 8, so the ADCPs are available to buy now, so are the landers that they sit in. We can report data to the surface very easily with the technology we've already got. Since the Bedlam project last year, we've now developed absolute calibration capability, so we can calibrate our acoustic data to real targets, so you get a real physical measurement of the size of your targets. We still have some residual risk around biomass estimation, so we weren't able in the project to actually do a calibration against a known target. So there's a bit of work to be done there. And I think from the data I just showed, it would be a really fantastic target for someone to look at with regarding AI or ML technologies to really extract the most out of that data. But you can see it's hopefully going to make the fish happy in the long term, which means site operators will be happy. Thank you very much. That's all I've got to say. If you have any questions, happy to take them.